I was always curious.
It's on.
It is on. I was always curious how it is that people are following me. It seems like every other day all these people are following me, and I'm hardly ever on Twitter. So what is that about? I know you addressed that briefly. That people just want to have more people.
They're following you in the hopes that you will follow them. It's just bad behavior. They probably stop following you after 48 hours. It could be a robot that they're paying. It could be a service that they're paying to try and build more followers. The idea is that the more followers you have, the more valuable you are as as a hire. Recruiters think that the bigger the network, they're inheriting your network when it comes with you. So people think that they just need to get as many followers as possible. They think that their Twitter scores, you can have a number attached to you according to how many followers you have and how many people you follow. All in all, though, it really means nothing. And it's a game for them, which is why I'm promoting best practices here.
Yeah, I have a kind of a twofold question. You mentioned this word handle as if everybody should know what that is, and
Okay.
I kind of don't, even though I do have a Facebook account,
Okay.
and you kind of didn't seem as excited about Facebook as Twitter, and I'd like to know why that is.
Okay. The handle comes from, I think, from shortwave radios when you would announce who you were on the shortwave radio with your handle. It's your name. It's what comes after the @ sign. You have your full name, or if it's your company, you put the full company up, but whatever comes after the @ sign is considered your handle. It's immediately hyperlinked every time somebody clicks on it. They go to your profile. And the reason why Twitter, I think Twitter is more popular, or I'm more excited, I think it's more useful than Facebook. Facebook is a lot less professional. On the hierarchy of professional sites, I would say LinkedIn and Behance are at the top of professional sites, and then Facebook is probably at the bottom, and Twitter is somewhere in between. Twitter allows you to have a personality, but it doesn't give you the space to really spend too much time and energy writing out a tweet. It encourages you to be short and succinct. Facebook really has set it up so that it sucks time out of your life. It doesn't inject time. What's the word? Time. I'm sorry?
Black hole.
Yeah, it's like a black hole. Twitter allows it's this constant feed of information. It's in real time. Facebook, I don't know if you realize this, but your Facebook feed is not in real time. And the more people have liked something or responded to it, it pushes it up in your Facebook feed. You can adjust it so that it's in real time, but it keeps you constantly looking at sometimes the same stuff over and over again to try and get you to engage with it. Twitter is not like that. Whatever comes in, it's like a news ticker, and it's constantly moving so that whoever just tweeted, if you're on, they're at the other end of the computer. You're going to email or text, you're going to tweet at them and they're going to tweet back. And I think what's also really interesting is that every tweet that you write is preserved forever in the Library of Congress. So even if you think that you've deleted something, it's still there. It might not be visible to the masses, but everything is being saved. So there's like this really beautiful sense of a documentary archive of what you've tweeted out into the world. So if I'm trying to write a biography about you at some point in 20 years, I could use that information. So think about it in terms of like a permanency.
Hi, I have 2 questions about setting up the account. One, would you recommend using your name or your business name if you were a freelancer?
I would, yes.
Which? Either your name or your business name?
Because your name is going to stick with you forever, and your business name I hopefully would, but might not.
Right.
I think your name is probably a safer way to go. You could set up 2 different Twitter profiles.
Okay. Okay. And then the second question is about the bio. So you're not really going to change your handle, but you can change your bio often?
Yes, absolutely. And you can change, and I encourage you to change it as often as you like, as long as you keep the core of what it is that you do and what skills you have to offer. Some people think of it as a game. They're constantly trying to outwit themselves and each other with their bios. Other times you're just changing what you're doing. I've only been in the workforce for less than 10 years, and what I've done has changed dramatically over the years. So you don't hesitate to identify yourself differently, as long as, everybody knows that they're getting the same thing from you.
Great.
Hi. I use Twitter to announce events for the SVA galleries.
Okay.
And I was wondering, managing hashtags you mentioned, wondering how, would you create an individual hashtag for each event separately, or would you create one hashtag for all, like say opening receptions?
If I were you guys, I would choose one. I would choose SVA opening or SVA gallery. That's too long. You want something short and quick. But yeah, I think that every time somebody knew they were coming to your gallery, and they included that hashtag, it became kind of standard, and you didn't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you said if you get home and 50 people have responded to something that you tweeted, do you respond back individually to them, or you were saying, how do you handle something like that?
I've never had 50 people tweet back at me, so if it was 10, yeah, I would respond to them individually. If you're Kanye West, no, you don't respond to everybody who's tweeted at you individually. You say, like, thanks for the love. But I would definitely engage with some of them. If it was 50 people, I would choose like 2 or 3 people that made sense for me to engage with, or had networks that I thought were interesting or what have you, so that it was obvious that you weren't just ignoring people. Because if you are ignoring people, people won't try to continue to communicate with you. So yeah, pick a handful and talk to them. Go ahead.
I understand if the gallery tweets, they tweet their name. But if the artist tweets, do they tweet their name then? Does that
With
make
a
sense?
hashtag, you mean?
Yeah.
The event would have the hashtag. You as an artist wouldn't have the hashtag, because you as the artist have a Twitter handle or a Twitter feed. So if, for example, if you were at the Met and you were at a specific gallery, you could use the hashtag. Like, locations are great for hashtags too. So if you're in gallery number 58. You could use that as a hashtag if you thought other people were using gallery numbers as a way to identify. Like, you've got to ask yourself the question: why do you want to use the hashtag? Is it to engage with people who are standing in the same room with you? So if everybody's in this room for an opening, and you use the pound sign, you can respond to people who you've never met and you're not following, but who are standing next to you, and you could say, "Raise your hand." And then you can go over and talk to them. Like, there's got to be a reason why you want to be using the hashtag, or for humorous purposes. Humorous purposes, it's a totally different ballgame. Go ahead. Oh,
Hi.
sorry.
I have a few questions actually,
Okay.
but I'll try to make them really quick. One is basic thing, like as far as retweeting something. If I'm retweeting and I also want to add a personal message to it, I'm not sure quite how to do that.
Sure.
So I basically just retweet it and don't add anything personal.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't discuss. Here, let me show you something. So I warned a couple of friends that I might be tweeting at them. So just going to there we go. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to, so I could hit the retweet button. That's what most people do. Now, that's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. It's the easiest way to retweet. And you hit that button, and then you hit the retweet button. It doesn't allow, if I'm clicking in this right now, it doesn't allow you to add the message. So what I would encourage, what best practices are, is to reply. Here, I don't want to reply to this person because they won't know what I'm doing right now. You put the RT in front of it. You type your personal message. And then you copy and paste their tweet into the message below. Now, this is what happens when she's used far more. She probably used the max at 140 words. So I've got to adjust what she wrote. So this is becoming a modified tweet now. Change the MT. I would say nice. I don't know what is in his hands. Elephant. Okay. Nice trunk. And that's what you would do. MT is a modified tweet. So I modified what she wrote. I wasn't doing what she did verbatim. And then I would hit the tweet button. Does that make sense? Yeah, go ahead. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. The other one was as far as like repeating. You had said before that sometimes it seems robotic when you repeat. But if I'm having something that I'm like promoting, whether it's a blog or my videos, I have to do it to a few different people, and they don't always fit. So I might have to do like 5 at a time. Is there a better way to do that?
5? You mean
5 different people?
5 different handles. You're tweeting something specifically at them.
Yes.
Yeah. What's ideal? How many people are you inviting? Like how many people are we talking?
Usually not more than 20.
Okay. I think 20 is manageable. You should be writing, this is going to sound really irritating. You should be sending individual tweets to each of them and not using a template. So it's the same with LinkedIn, like sending a LinkedIn invitation to somebody. You don't use what LinkedIn puts in as the automatic text. You write something personal in that, and you want to target it at the person you're tweeting at. So you change the words depending on who you're tweeting at.
So that won't look bad if you have 20 things that might have similar content.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal, but that it seems like an email would probably make more sense than Twitter. To target a guest list.
And the last one, I'm sorry. Sometimes, as far as like companies, you said it's not good to fetch on the. But if it's to a company, like particular, if you're an airline and there's like a problem going on, an issue, and you have to complain about it.
Yes.
I found sometimes I've gotten responses only that way.
They're on it. Yeah. Airline social media
like
are totally on
thing,
it.
So, do you take it off?
I think that you should do. Try and frame it in not a whiny, angry way, but like, hey, Delta Airlines, are we getting off the ground soon? Is totally different than I haven't gone to the bathroom in 4 hours and I'm about to lose it on, something. You could be a lot worse. I'm trying to watch my language since we're being videotaped. But instead of like spewing anger at them, you can be a lot more upbeat and tempered. I think tempered is the way to go. I wouldn't DM them. No, you want to show them. This is the beauty of social media. The power of social media is that you're sending out a message that they're screwing up to your entire network. That's like the power that you have as a customer. So they're trying to kind of manage you immediately. If they have a bunch of airline or passengers on a flight who are all complaining via social media, that's going out to hypothetically like 500,000 people. It's really poor publicity for them.
Hi. I have 2 questions, and I don't know if you answered them before, but
okay.
When people are tweeting back to you, do they all show up on your feed and everybody can see every tweet that somebody's sending back to you?
So, yes and no. There's a difference between, here, let's go to my Connect. So, This is, oh, are we, okay. There's the difference, but have you ever seen a period put before the @ sign? If you just respond to somebody immediately without including what they tweeted, you're basically having an online chat via Twitter. If you don't put the period before the @ sign, it'll just show up for them immediately. Like if somebody's looking for the tweet, they can go onto your feed and find it, but it won't show up on other people's Twitter feeds. It'll just show up, if you're targeting it at me, it'll show up on my Twitter feed, but it won't show up on everybody else's in this room. If somebody wanted to see if we were having a conversation, it's very easy to go in and just search for my name, and then you would see all of the tweets with my name attached to them. But if you put a period in front of the @ sign to start it, when you hit the reply button, it starts like at the plucky one. If I put a period there, then it shows up for everybody. So it's a little bit more advanced, which is why I haven't gone there with it. But it's available to everybody. Everybody can find whatever they want to find, but on like an immediate feed, with people having a conversation that's a little bit more private, if they want to make it more public, they put a period at the very beginning.
And the other question is, when I haven't been tweeting, I kind of abandoned it for a while because I don't know what I'm doing. But when I first went on there, all these very, very strange people started following me, and it just felt very, very unprofessional. It was creepy. And how do you handle it? Do you just unfollow them, or?
You can't make them unfollow you. That's part of the equalizing beauty of Twitter, is that anybody can follow you who wants to follow you. You can't block people. But chances are they're not following you because they're trying to stalk you, and if they are, that's a totally different conversation. But they're following you because they probably want you to follow them. It's just a tactic for them to try and get you to follow them. That's really all it is.
Well, it looked like there were some people that didn't have any followers, but they were following thousands of people.
Yeah, those are probably fake Twitter accounts. They're probably manned by robots or by software. They're not actually being manned by a human being.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So don't worry about them. They're not looking at what you're doing.
Thank you.
You had talked about hashtags, not to use too many. What is too many? I mean, should you use a few, or how many
I have a cousin who likes to post whenever she makes cupcakes, pictures of the cupcakes she makes. She's very talented as a baker. And she will use hashtags such as hashtag cupcake, hashtag cup, hashtag cake, hashtag little cupcakes. Like, it's like she's trying to hit as many different tags as possible so people can find her, but that's not useful. Like, that just seems like overboard. Like, I would not use more than 2 to 3 hashtags in a single tweet, and try and get them scattered throughout the text. Don't try and just tag them on to the end. Try and use them in the course of the writing of the tweet.
Well, I still don't understand what hashtags are for.
Okay,
Can you explain
sure.
that again? Thanks.
So I'm going to search the I don't know how many hash.
What was that?
What was what?
Hashtag SVASF.
That's what we're using for our event today. So if anybody wanted to tweet in today, we were using this as the way in which it's a tag. So I know anybody who's tweeted using this, it was in this room today. So Anna is my coworker. Vinzi, does Vinzi want to raise his hand? Okay, so this gentleman, if this was a gallery and we were both tweeting about what was happening in the gallery, we could then try and find each other in person. Let's say that we're in different parts of the world, but we want to all talk about, let's say, DOMA. I can engage in a conversation with anybody around the world right now about DOMA. I could respond to Cory Booker. I could start up a conversation with this guy. I don't know who this guy is. Joe, my God. I don't know. But if I feel really passionately about something and I want to talk to people who might have different ideas than I do or what have you, this is the way to basically get together to signal, I want to talk about DOMA, so I'm going to include it in my hashtag, and then you can start conversations.
So you could put that there about anything.
You can put it about anything. And then on your homepage, you can see what's trending that day. So certain hashtags down here, certain ones are trending more, and this changes constantly. So before, DOMA was one of these things that was trending.
How come some of them don't have?
I think because Twitter, this used to only be hashtags, and now it looks like certain names can trend too. The software can pick up names. Hashtags, it's like tagging your photos on Flickr or certain emails in your email box. You can have multiple tags on something. Like, you don't want to put one thing in a folder. You want it to be able to exist in several places. So on Gmail, you have something that its tag needs to be done. It's part of the summer semester, and it's also for SBA career development. All three of these things. But one day, like, you've assigned Monday for all things for SBA career development. So you go to that tag and you open up everything that's in that tag. So you know it's been set aside for a certain topic. And that's what this is. It's a topic, and it's a way to find what other people are saying about a certain topic.
So it's not a requirement.
No, it's definitely not a requirement. It's helpful when engaging with others.
To create a community.
Yes, exactly.
Hi. Can you make a tweet so you can show everybody how to make a really good tweet, just to give an idea?
Sure.
I think that might be helpful.
Sure. I need material. Okay, so let's...
What's it been like giving this lecture?
What's it been like giving this lecture?
There's your material.
Okay, I'm going to do something that's humorous, okay? This is going to evolve, though. I'm not gonna be able to do it straight from beginning to end. You'll see it change.
It's keeping count on the bottom.
Yes. Yep. So it tells you when you go over. Okay. So I've used a couple of hashtags. Preferably, I would have been sending this. I just realized that I should have been sending this to somebody, like a friend of mine. I should have included an @. I could have. Here. What would have been better is Anna was in here before. She's since left. So I would have responded to her. So this makes it public by putting a period there. Or, that would have been a better tweet because it would have been directly tweeting at somebody. In this case, I'm going to say, she's pregnant. So I tend to overuse hashtags humorously. That's my downfall. I like making people, laugh a little bit. I'm not a funny person, but I can bring it out in my writing. This would be an example of overusing a hashtag. Also, I didn't search for baby2 as a hashtag. This is obviously a joke, so I'm not trying to be a part of a conversation. I'm just trying to get a laugh. You kind of, it comes over, you figure out what works over time. Was that helpful to you? Okay.
Other questions?
When you said about creating a list to consolidate, I'm assuming like your people tweeting at you. How would that?
How do you do it?
That? Yeah.
Sure. So under Discover. Nope. Gotta love it when they move stuff around. This is tweets. Following. Okay. So I hit on. You've got to remember that they're constantly changing software too. So as soon as you think you've learned how to do something, they move it, or they add a new feature, which is why reading publications like Fast Company are helpful. But anyway, so hit on your tweets, or your followers for that matter, and my lists are right down here. So right here, you hit the button that says create a list, and then every time that you see somebody that you want, let's say I want to follow Warren Buffett. Let's follow Warren Buffett. Where did you go, Warren? Then over here, under this guy, you can add him to a specific list. So you create your lists, and then you add individual people to lists. Or you just subscribe to other people's lists. That can be very easy. So I would add him to friends because we're so tight. And that's how you do it.
When you replied to Anna, had you not put her name in there, would she have gotten your answer anyway?
No. Her name has to be, I hit the reply button. If I just wrote it on my homepage without putting her name on it, she would not have gotten it. You have to make sure, that's why spelling the handles is so important, because if you don't spell it correctly, that person's just never, it's like an incorrect email address. They'll just never get it.
But if it's a reply, then it's automatic. You don't
In a reply, Twitter automatically feeds this into the box. You don't have to do it, which is the beauty of it.
Like an email.
Yeah, exactly, like an email.
So then, if you wanted to respond to Anna and have only her see it, then you would have just sent it this way.
I would just have done that, and I would have posted it.
Okay, but if you want all of your followers, then you would put a period before.
I would put a period before it.
Okay. Other questions?
If I want to start following a lot of people, and they're not following me yet, and I do it in mass, or I do a lot at once, will I get kicked off, or will I get something warning?
No, you won't get kicked off. If the people who are following you with nobody following them, they have thousands of people they're following. No, you won't get kicked off. The only thing that gets you kicked off, I think, on Twitter is by posting pornography. I really think that's the.
If I do any artwork that is not pornographic, but it may be, there may be drawings in there. Is that considered pornography?
That's a really good question, and I don't have the answer to that. I think that I remember there being some kind of issue a couple of years ago with what you're talking about. But I have seen tons of artwork on Twitter that are of nudes, like without major problems.
Back to what you were talking about, the lists. What once you make the lists, what is the purpose of the list? Can you send tweets just to your lists, or I'm a little confused about what the list is for.
So it's helpful in curating. It's the sense of curating your list. So I so you can see I follow 1,166 people. I admit it's a lot of people that I follow. I don't think that most people need to do that. I'm trying to keep my pulse on a bunch of different communities right now because I'm in a point of transition. So I'm following more than normal. But like I said, when you set an intention, like at the beginning of a yoga practice, when you go online to do something helpful for yourself with social media, for your community, you click on these lists. So I was really interested for a while in, okay, for example, Norton is my publisher. So I'm interested in how Norton authors are publicizing their work. So I set up a list, or I followed somebody's list of all Norton authors. And I can go in and I can start interacting with other Norton authors. Like Amanda Hesser's amazing, this New York Times, she used to be the New York Times food person. And so I didn't even know that she was a Norton author. So I would send her a note and say, I would respond to her. I would try to create a contact or a new, I would try to incorporate her into something that I'm doing so that by connecting with somebody else who has a contract with my publisher, then I can develop a relationship by this commonality, for example. So, or I could just see everybody who's doing book publicity. How are they doing it? Where are they doing their readings? So then I can figure out the bookstores where Norton authors read across the country, and then I can reach out to those bookstores and say, I want to do a reading when I'm in town. It becomes just a way to kind of source, to pare down. From 1,166 people, I'm now looking at 55 with a very targeted purpose, who are all, I'm interested in what they're doing because I've tagged them as this.
Let me see. If I use a .@ it goes to all my followers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If I use just the @ it goes to one person, but it's still discoverable by others.
Correct.
Okay. If I don't use either the ., or the @ what happens to the tweet?
The tweet goes out to your followers, but it doesn't reach necessarily the intended person. So if you just wrote Suzanne Moses without the @,
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne Moses is a writer. Let's just keep it simple. Suzanne Moses is a writer. No @ Suzanne Moses is a writer. So I don't know that you've mentioned me in a tweet. If I don't follow you, I wouldn't know that you had tweeted about me.
Can I follow a hashtag?
Yes, but you have to use a different app. You can't follow it on Twitter. There are other apps for it. I think it's called Hashtrack. There are a bunch of different apps, but I think that there is one called Hashtrack that looks at the analytics of how often the word has been or that hashtag has been used over the course of a year. Feel free to leave too. I know we're going on 2 hours, so if anybody needs to leave, please don't feel like I'm here as long as you want me to be, but you don't need to stay.
I'm just curious with that, following that many people, I mean, doesn't it take hours to read all of those tweets? How do you sort through?
Okay.
How do you sort through and figure out what to read and?
Okay, I'm not reading all 1,000 tweets every day. The way I work, I've made it work for me, and this is what I'm encouraging everybody to do for themselves. If I go to my tweet, I'm interested in I get my headlines from Twitter. That's how I really use Twitter most efficiently. I get my headlines, I see what's scrolling down. I'm really interested. The literary community is kind of this interesting, kind of small and quirky and all insidery, and I think Twitter has been the greatest way to crack that. So I'm looking at who's tweeting at one another. but I would never, ever encourage you to try and read all, like, just in the course of, I think, in 2 hours you can miss over 2,000 tweets from your community if you're following this many people. So it's impossible. I go on thinking I'm going to engage with the people who are on at the same time I'm on. To try and engage with somebody who's not on there is kind of a waste of your time. They could be out of town, they could be doing other work, they're not going to respond to you for 2 days. That by the time they respond to you, you don't know what they're talking about. So I try and see what I'm supposed to be reading in my community. Like, oftentimes things go viral, a certain article will go viral, and you have to have read it if you're going to go to that cocktail party later on in the day. Everybody has read certain things, and it becomes really obvious really quickly what you should have read. So it's kind of like my reading list, it's my headlines, and then it's also, it's this like constant slow cultivation, like setting the seeds to be able to start working through the next steps. But as a beginner just getting going, don't try and do that. You'll make yourself mad.
That's what I found. I signed up and I just started getting, there were so many tweets.
Yeah. I think if you can set a list for family and friends so you know what they're saying, like just to engage on a very small scale, just go to that list every time you go onto Twitter when you get going. Just interact with your family and friends so you can screw up and they can point out the errors for you and help you along, and then move into a larger sphere. But it's helpful if I can just see what my family is saying.
So then is there a way to limit your tweets to just the people combined in one list?
No.
No, there's not. So then how do you do...
I don't think so.
Then how do you do what you just suggested we do?
So if I had a list on here. So for example, so I want to, there are only 4 people on Behance. I started reading their books and became kind of obsessed with their time management skills. So there are only 4 people on this list, and you can see when they've all tweeted, okay? I can't, unless I put them all into a single tweet and use all of their handles in a single tweet, I can't tweet at all of them. But I can see, like, let's say Jocelyn was my sister, Scott was my dad. I could just tweet back at my father. This is a lot more manageable. There aren't tweets popping up every single moment.
So just reply to one person?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the lists are for managing incoming, not outgoing.
Correct.
I just wanted to know what the etiquette is on linking. Sometimes we use Bitly, and then sometimes we just link, just use a regular link. What's the best way?
For those of you who don't know, Bitly is also the same as Tiny URL. They make really long URLs, like the New York Times URLs can get super, super long. They immediately shrink them down to about 5 to 7 characters, and it's a unique link. So I would encourage you, this is again kind of an advanced thing that takes practice, but I would encourage you to use Bitly instead of using somebody else's URL. And the only reason why is because you can track how many people clicked on the link that is unique to you. So you can suddenly understand that 7 people clicked on what you sent out, or 2,000 people clicked on what you sent out. And it's not because it's somebody else's link, it's because it's attached to your link. And you sign up for a Bitly account, it's bit.ly, and you can suddenly start tracking, our career development Twitter feed is really, really, the students don't follow it. Students aren't on Twitter, they're elsewhere. It's not their water cooler. So people aren't clicking on us. And I know that only because I use the Bitly links, and I can tell that our Twitter feeds are dead.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and then we have to wrap it up. So someone that hasn't asked a question, I'm going to make that the last question.
If you could just repeat that again, please. The bit, well, I'm sorry?
bit.ly. And it's a free account. All of this is free. That's why it's so great.